Chapter 26. Uncertain Ground. Blue. Master moves on some instinct away from the teacher and into one of the seats. I follow, docile as I can, trying not to show the immense worry that's flooded my mind. It's not just the teacher, who had set me on edge since class started. I'm worried about my master. He's not all there. He's not seeing what's in front of him. He's not reacting to much of anything. If it weren't such a breach of conduct, I might just climb up into his lap and test the theory. I banish the thought as soon as it comes. That's the attention-grabbing move of a pet, not a familiar. My face burns in renewed shame. I should have known the positions weren't the same. I should have been able to cobble together the pieces, even in my pathetic mind. I'd been following Ande's lead all morning during the orientation speeches. His kneel was different from the one I was used to. His was correct here. I watch all the other pairs go up as closely as I can without being overt. There are a few different calls, but for the most part the words are the same. Master had done it right. Sit, down, roll, fetch. They're all acceptable commands in the drill, but they mean different things than I'm used to. Sit is much more formal. It's not a stance that invites play, it's more like the wait stance I've been taught, but with arms at the sides. Down is rigid, more like the position table than my belly down stance. The beginning is the same 2 or 3 simple stances, but some of the mages use different commands, showing off different sets of poses they've trained their familiars in, or more elaborate motions, or calls to show off their training. A couple of them trip up, not as badly as me, but the same offer is extended to them. Punishment, in order to make up for their botched participation. Not many of the masters wield their weapons as well as mine. Some of the masters overestimate their ability to control their tools, or perhaps they don't care. And there's blood. But even those are better than the ones who do seem to know what they're doing. The ones who pick their weapons and go until the teacher stops them. I shift just a bit on my knees, feeling the unpleasant sting of my new marks against the cloth. For some reason, there's a part of me that's genuinely happy. I finally did it. Master punished me. It wasn't more than I could handle. It was pretty lenient given the circumstances. Now I know what to expect. I know that my master knows how to use his training tools, and that even when he wields them, he's merciful. The marks aren't that bad, considering the damage a cane can do, and he didn't overlap the strikes. He made sure there would be no chance my skin would tear and bleed. At most, they'll be raised and read for a day. Master would not be cruel or careless. It's not in his nature. The pain is familiar, even if the restraint isn't. It puts my mind at ease. The world Master put me in, so full of unimaginable kindnesses, hasn't been making sense for a long time. Master punished me for doing badly. The world is making sense again. He doesn't punish with fire in his eyes. He seems calculating. The only thing I don't know how to interpret is the brevity. 10 strokes can't be all, considering I've embarrassed him in front of his peers. He said there would be more to come once class is done. I don't know if he means after this class, or once we go back to his house. As far as I know, there's just the one discipline tool in his home, and it'll be a long session if that's the only tool he uses. Then again, he might try something else, something that he can't show his classmates. I wonder if my analysis is completely wrong, if the calm and calculated punishment I've received is just the act that Master uses in public. He could be hiding his anger, providing only the barest corrective measures calmly, in public. It is possible, but I dismiss it as unlikely. Master wouldn't be so careful with his strokes if that wasn't something he strived for. Besides, what do I gain from the worry that he's feigning a different style punishment in public? After all, the last time Master said he would carry out a punishment, later he gave me my collar and plushie. The inside of my wrist is streaked pink from my scratching before I realize what I'm doing. A quick glance at Master shows that he's still not really there. At least, he's not seeing my shameful display of nerves. I fold my hands in my lap and squeeze them together in an effort not to scratch anymore. Shauna comes over after Ande's turned his tricks. He didn't have any issues. Even as he settles beside Shauna, his back is straight and his stance is perfect. I can barely see him breathing. Shauna's as quiet as her familiar, and neither seems interested in starting a conversation. I want to ask why they came over here. I want to thank Shauna for the use of her cosmetics. Stars, I'd settle for a grunt from Ande. The silence feels caustic, and the longer it goes on, the more I'm sure it's going to swallow me whole. The bell rings, and Shauna moves away, taking Ande with her, and Master moves us to the back of the classroom. I can't help but feel that it's my fault. He's moving to the outskirts of the teacher's view, because of me. I wish I could be better. Master's paying better attention now, but I can see he's still distracted. I wish I was a trained study companion that knew how to write and read so that I could take notes for my master. As it is, I settle for paying close attention and remembering what I can. Today's class is fairly basic, covering the proper drawing of casting circles and the different fields of magic that require different runes and symbols to be included. Most of the jargon goes entirely over my head, and I'm left feeling even more stupid than when I started. The bell rings and Master pulls me out of the classroom with all the other students. The flood of people is less than ideal. I hear a deep sigh from Master. I want to ask what's wrong, but I see the problem before I have the chance to figure out an acceptable way of phrasing my question. Rows and rows of tables are set out to line the hall on the way to the front gate. Students are calling out excitedly for the attention of the passing first years, waving colorful parchment with printed words scrawled across them. Master sets a brisk pace, but smiles kindly at all the people, sparing them a few words and a wave of his hand as he pushes forward. I graciously accept the flyers in his stead and try to keep pace. Master hasn't taken up my leash, and I feel a little sick to my stomach that he's walking without it, as though he's not worried about losing me. Maybe he is the type to hold a grudge and punish with isolation. By the time we reach the outer gates, I'm red in the face and have far too many papers for these school organizations. But carrying my master's things is the one thing I've actually been able to do for him today, so I straighten the pages as much as I can and follow him to the line of carriages. He's already given the driver directions and gotten in before I can catch up. I didn't even get to hold the door for him. Master's inside, rubbing a hand over his face and trying to breathe deeply. He's stressed by the day's events, and up to this point I've been of no help. I need to be better. Entering the carriage, I have a plan. I'll kneel and be sweet and present the papers I've collected on Master's behalf, so they're something of importance. I want to take his mind off the day he's just had. Unfortunately, my plans are thwarted by the stuttering movements of the carriage and my own lack of balance. Even my apology fails as Master and I start talking over one another. My face is on fire, and it's all I can do to stiffly hold out the colorful collection of papers for him to take. The offer to lie down is unexpected and thoroughly unearned, but Master's voice is so tired and earnest that it's hard to question. Being allowed up on the seat should feel like a treat, but it just makes me uneasy. What does Master want with me up here? This is a bad angle if he wants to use me. I would have been better off staying on the floor. But Master has other uses for me, and hasn't shown any desire to use me as I'm accustomed to. If this is all just a ploy to punish me, it's wildly unnecessary. Master has plenty of reasons to punish me. He doesn't need more excuses. Apparently, I take too long trying to figure out the method to my master's madness, and he just tips me over into his lap. Master? There's no way that happened accidentally. I'm where my master wants me, but that doesn't mean I know why. I just want to pet you, okay? We'll be at the vet soon, and we can get the last of our paperwork squared away. Then we can go home. I had forgotten about the vet. It's not my idea of a good time, but it does mean that we will be able to go home once it's over. Master's voice is so tired and quiet that I feel bad about questioning him. He's had a long day. Once we get this paperwork squared away, when Master needs me out of the classroom, I'll get to stay in the care center. It's nicer than I thought it would be. Apparently, familiars are awarded quite a bit of comfort. It's probably more about respecting their owners by showing respect to their property, but I don't mind. Not when I get to reap such nice benefits. I really am sorry. And I mean it with all my heart. I wanted this day to go without any problems, and I've done nothing all day but cause trouble. Now Master is tired, and probably more than a little bit stressed. I didn't mean to embarrass you. It's a pitiful apology, but it's all I have to offer. Blue, nothing that happened in that classroom was your fault. If anything, it was mine for not reading up on the proper positions. Stars, it's that professor's fault anyway. This was nowhere on the syllabus, otherwise I swear I would have prepared you for it. I believe him. He wouldn't have sent me in there without telling me what I was going to face. That's the game of a much crueler person. Still, there's something a lot more worrying in what he's said. You really weren't going to do it, were you? I don't know what half-mad instinct makes me speak, but I stop almost as soon as I've begun. It's ridiculous. Absolutely insane. Of course Master was going to punish me. Not only did I fail him in his class, but I embarrassed him in front of his peers and his teacher. And the professor all but ordered him to do it. Of course he was going to punish me. My pleading had nothing to do with it, aside from being the exact words I was supposed to say in that situation. Blue, I'm still not convinced that I should have. Master sounds exasperated, as though he's beating a long dead point. If it were anyone else, I might be afraid that the anger would fall on me for having brought the point up. My heart stutters for a second, and I feel cold. Don't say that! Stars above, it is so wrong. I don't even know where to start. He can't be thinking that way. It's wrong. It's so very wrong that my chest hurts with the force of it. Even putting aside the fact that he thinks that I've done nothing wrong, he still endangered his reputation by even considering withholding punishment. Master, if you hadn't, the professor would have... My stomach rolls at the thought of that man, the smell of blood and metal giving away his dangerous core before he ever spoke a word to the class. It would have been bad, and the students would talk. Really, it's better that you did. He could have ruined himself, his reputation, and all chances at social standing, because of me. The whole stable world I've been balanced on since my punishment is crumbling underneath me, and I have no clue what to expect. I hurt you for no other reason than to save my grade. It's the closest to a whine I've heard from this master, and I'm stunned into silence. I hadn't thought this would affect him so strongly. He's used me as a familiar is meant to be used. There's nothing wrong with what he's done. He didn't hurt me half as bad as the others in his class hurt their familiars in the same situation. None of my other masters would have felt such remorse after a punishment. Many have done a lot worse for less noble goals. I don't like thinking of many of my previous masters, but it is true. Punishments are commonplace, necessary if I'm going to learn or atone for mistakes. There were a few that punished me for their own amusement, to satisfy some desire. They didn't show half as much restraint as this master. Blue, I don't like the guilt I hear in his voice. He's been so kind to me. I don't want him to feel bad. I nuzzle into his lap and interrupt whatever he's about to say. You didn't even hurt me too bad, master. Many have used the cane without knowing how. The caning was almost easy to bear. He didn't do anywhere near the amount of damage a cane is capable of, and he even stayed away from bad places to hit. He's not convinced. Even I can tell that. but his hand in my hair hasn't gone painful from my breach of conduct, so I count it as a win.
Blue, I don't know anything about familiars, and I know you say you don't either, but you still know a hell of a lot more than me. You know how you're supposed to act, and I don't. I don't even know the basic rules for pets. I can deal with the people, but we need to work together if we're ever going to make it through this. Okay? I have a lot to learn from you.
He sounds like he has a plan. I don't quite know where he's going with this, but I don't want him to get his hopes up. I'm not a great familiar. That won't change just because he's determined. I'm doubtful you could learn anything useful from me, Master. I hedge carefully. I don't want him to think I'm being rude or contending his point. I'll help him as much as I can. It's all that I can do. But I know that my help probably won't be worth too much.
Well, we will just have to disagree.
Master sounds so utterly sure that it's really difficult to argue. It's just like before. He sees worth and importance in me that I don't. I want to be worthy of the confidence he has in me. I want to be good. I duck my head against his thigh to hide the growing redness in my face. Since when has it been so easy to make me blush? Master scratches in a good spot, and I purr loudly in retribution. I hope whatever plan Master is cooking up works. I want to keep these tender moments, these good memories. I want to stay with him.